All right, welcome everybody. I know my high school teacher felt like everybody's sitting at the back. That's okay, there's still COVID around. Thank you and welcome everybody to Enviro Stewards and Safe Water Social Project's first film festival. Thank you. And a special hello to the people watching on the live stream. There's someone actually in PackWatch who's tuning in. I think it's 3 a.m. in Uganda, so it's wonderful to have fans like that.
Yeah.
So my name is Lloyd. I'll be one of your MCs for this evening.
And I'm Wesley, and I'll be co-MCing. And just to clarify, that guy who's watching the live stream, that's Brian. That's the operations manager of PackWatch, I believe. And I got to hang out with him a lot and have some heart-to-hearts. That was awesome. And to all the other brothers and sisters who are watching from there, and we'll see this in the future too. So yeah, it's so good to have everybody here tonight. Like, I'm really excited. This work has been on the heart of Enviro Stewards and all the staff here for many years. So it's just great, and let's just enjoy this time together.
All right, thank you, Wesley. So to kick things off, we have a message from one of our members of Parliament, Mike Morrice.
Hi everyone, it's Mike Morrice here. I'm the Member of Parliament for Kitchener Centre. If you're not sure where Kitchener Centre is, well, you're in it right now if you're at the Apollo Cinema. It's land that is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Neutral peoples. And it's on what's known as Block 2 of the Haldimand Tract, land that was promised to the Six Nations of the Grand River, 90% of which has never been paid for or paid to Six Nations. Sadly, I can't be with you tonight and filming this video instead because I'm in Ottawa advocating on so many of our community's priorities. Somewhat jet-lagged still. Hopefully you can't tell, having just come back from the recent UN climate talks. But I did just want to say how glad I am that you're there to learn more at Venture Forward through the Impact Film Festival about some of the incredible work that Bruce and the rest of the Enviro Stewards team has been in the midst of, and to hear the stories of those who have been empowered through some of that work. In fact, I'll be really curious, for those of you that are there, when you see me in our community next, I'd love to hear from you about some of your reflections on the film festival, on some of what you've learned and what you might be inspired by. I'd really look forward to some of those conversations. For now, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks for your contributions that are part of what power Bruce and his team to do this work. And really thanks to the Enviro Stewards team too. You're all living out your values in doing this work, and you're showing us the best of what it can look like when folks in our community put their time and talent towards creating a positive impact both in our community and in this case in Africa and right around the world. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Okay, so we'd like to thank everybody who submitted a film for consideration in this evening's events. The short films you see were selected because we found them the most inspiring and in strong alignment with the spirit of Safe Water Social Ventures, which is to empower sustainable change. The final film of the evening will be the premiere of our documentary called Ngongakinda. Following that, we'll have a panel discussion on the stage right here of the people who were there last month to capture footage for the documentary. So during that time, we'll have time for panel questions and questions from the audience, as well as questions from the live stream, which you can just put in the chat window.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that we can have a positive impact in this world. So that's where this idea of all these different films is, because there's a lot of ways that people are doing that, and we want to celebrate that all together. Thanks to Mike for that introduction. That was really meaningful and good to have him give us that message. And the main thing that brings us here tonight kind of centered around the safe water social ventures work that we do. So to give a quick intro on what that is, because we have a lot of variety of people here tonight, people who have been supporting us for years, and that's awesome. and some people who are new, and like everyone can have a role to play in supporting or even just learning about it. So the Safe Water Social Ventures, the name's changed a few times. It was Safe Water Project recently. Might have been something even a little different before that. But it's based on work that's being done in Uganda for safe drinking water. And the means that we achieve that is through local teams, empowering local teams that a bunch of us you'll get to hear got to meet in our trip to Uganda in the latter part of October. And a traditional charity method, Northwestern Society, is just supplying where there's a need. Sometimes there can be issues with creating a dependency and reliance on that need. So we really emphasize with the Safe Water Social Ventures the empowerment of the individuals there, because they're the ones who are best positioned to support their local communities. And we're just, with this initiative, Safe Water Social Ventures, we have a way to come alongside that and equip them. It's really good to be a part of that. So I hope that clears up some general things, and you'll learn more as we go through this. And the first film that we have for the night is Let's Keep Fishing. And this is from co-owners of Clearwater. They own 50% of this. 7 communities of the Micmac communities that are out east in Canada. And we've actually got some employees out there on a new project that are doing that right now. So this is going to be great. Now let's find out what this is about.
For 13,000 years, our ancestors took to the waters of Mi'kma'ki to provide for their families. Fishing became more than nourishment. It is a way of life for the Mi'kmaq. Over time, rules changed and our access became limited. As industries grew, we were often left behind. But today is a new day. Today, our Mi'kmaq communities have come together in a monumental way to celebrate our ancestors and to provide for our great-great-grandchildren that we haven't met yet. With pride, a collective of Mi'kmaq communities from across Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, in partnership with premium brands, have acquired North America's largest seafood company, Clearwater Seafoods. Where we once were left behind, now we have ownership. Where others once went ahead of us, now we have made a transformational move for the future of our people. In this truly remarkable moment, we have invested in our traditions. We have invested in 100% ownership of Clearwater's Canadian licenses, which will sow economic benefits for us and for 7 generations to come. Together, we always rise. Let's keep fishing, number 2.
So the next film is called The Freezer Geezer. It's not me in it. And we're excited to screen this submission by our fellow B Corporation, Rhino Foods. Now, we're all familiar with the damage that can be caused by one ill-advised policy, so we love this submission as it illustrates the benefit that a well-thought-out policy can generate. It doesn't hurt that we're also huge fans of Ben & Jerry's #1 selling ice cream flavor, Half Baked, that features Rhino's cookie dough as an ingredient. Enjoy.
Rhino Foods Distribution Center.
You have 6 new voice messages.
Morning, guys.
I'm looking at probably anywhere from 11 to 3 tomorrow.
I see the warehouse as one unit. I see the whole picture of what needs to be done in order to get through a day, a week, a month, even a year.
You want to know something? Go to him.
If I'm assigning the right people to the right task at the right time, everything works perfectly.
they gave him the name Freezer Geezer. If he couldn't go in that freezer at all during the day, he'd be miserable. He'll find something to go in there.
I'm proud of the nickname Freezer Geezer. It's minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a constant temperature, whether it's 90 degrees outside or 20 degrees outside. With the hustle and bustle and the stress and the phone calls and it's an escape. Literally chills me. Bad joke. Back in 1995, which is about the same year I started working for Rhino, I had made a mistake on my income tax with the IRS. I wasn't in any position at that point to pay that back instantly. It ruined my credit. Could not get a loan, even for a stick of bubble gum. I joined the income advance program pretty much at its inception. The only requirement is to be in good standing, and then you're guaranteed. So I borrowed $1,000. It was an emergency, I had to have it. It comes right out of your paycheck every week, you don't have to think about it. After a while, you don't even miss it. Once that was paid, I re-upped and got another $1,000. And I did this about 5 times. I didn't know the impact that would have until I actually went to get a loan for a car. They approved my loan. And I was, to be honest with you, I was shocked. Apparently my credit score had risen due to the income advance program. The very first new car that I'd ever purchased in my mid-50s, you know? Yeah. The point that we bought this house, which was a little over a year ago, I had a good idea what my credit rating was. I was a little more hip about credit in general. So I had a good idea that we were going to get the mortgage. My feeling is that my wife had passed. My daughter and my son-in-law couldn't afford a mortgage on their own. It was a perfect marriage. I get to live with my daughter and my granddaughters, and I've got this beautiful place. I gotta think that it's critical for a lot of people. You have an emergency, you don't know where to turn, this is where you should go. It's just human nature, I think. It works.
So our next film is short film is going to be Wealth, Not a Waste. And we're inspired by this one, the creative use of plastics and the many benefits from that. And this one is from Care for Back.
It never appeared to me that one day in my life I would be passionate about plastic. I was born in Ghana and then went to UK in 1978, and I've lived in the UK since then. My name is Chip Hagen, and I am founder of Collect and Recycle Ecologically. Water shortage in Ghana has been the biggest issue in the sea, gutters everywhere, because after the Second World War, Ghana water system unfortunately got polluted by what was banned in the West, DDT. As a child, my family were farmers, and we had cocoa plantation more than 25 miles square. And we were told that DDT is good for spraying cocoa. But no, unfortunately you spray it, it rains, and the residue seep into the waterbed. That is one of the reasons why Ghana can never ever reduce single-use plastic in terms of the water sachet. You buy it, you drink it, but don't throw it away. Add value to it. So one day, I saw the cleaners at Ngongakinda Hospital dump the plastic and they set fire to it. I saw that happening, so I went there, put the fire off, went home and brought 6 sacks to collect the plastic. People going by ask me, what am I going to use it for? And I said, I'm going to use it to make baskets. So people follow me and went to see the women at Zari, actually weaving, using a weaving, washing, cutting, and then twisting. And that's when they realized that there's a value. Through the education, people are now beginning to realize that plastic is causing more problems. So people have now started to save the plastic rather than throw it away. In the past, all this area used to have straw. Sometimes it rains so much, it actually washes everything away. Or when it's actually needed to rain, it doesn't rain. But because of climate change and drought, it's all going. If people cannot harvest, but they will have some work to buy seedlings, hoping that the weather will be good so that they can start farming. It's helping the people here. Africa have always been involved in weaving for a very, very, very long time. Bulga is the root of basket weaving. The whole idea is to keep the skill going using the same tradition method to do it. Within 6 weeks, the idea all came together. This is where the importance of the plastic as a substitute. Initially stage was very difficult to convince people to believe that something that was on the floor as a waste is a future. Plastic could be the future alternative material for the people of Ngongakinda here. I learned from the weavers themselves that plastic is a wealth, not a waste. That's the only advice I can give. Plastic is a wealth, not a waste.
Okay. Yep. So for our next film, we're pleased to screen the submission by the London Environmental Network about their work with the Chippewa and the Thames First Nation. As you'll see in the video, integrating efficiency into homes benefits the environment, and it improves comfort and permanently reduces energy costs for homeowners. Enjoy.
My name's Marianne Griffith, and I'm the Interim Executive Director for the London Environmental Network. We've had the pleasure of partnering with Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, or Dashkan for a clean energy in remote and rural communities project, where we identified a target area for the community in reducing energy costs and researching renewable energy solutions in the residential sector. We decided, along with the Treaties Land and Environments Department that we work closely with at Chippewas of the Thames, to pilot a home on the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation to as near net zero as possible, and use that opportunity as a community capacity building experience where we're teaching some of the community members who are particularly keen about new technologies, including air source heat pumps, which will help the community lose their reliance on expensive propane that's also high in greenhouse gas emissions. Chippewas of the Thames had a community energy plan done in 2020 where they identified that 88% of the housing there is heated using propane. That's vastly larger than the 1% that's heated by propane throughout the rest of Canada, and only 2% of homes in Ontario are heated with propane, which is very expensive, it can be unreliable, and it is one of the higher pollutants. We wanted to show that we could take the home straight from propane to electricity and skip the natural gas step that we've done in the London community, for example. So when we first audited Wanda's home, she was using a relatively high efficiency propane burning furnace for heating. We have swapped that out for an electric air source heat pump. It's the Mitsubishi Zuba model, and it's for whole home heating and cooling. Got roughly a 300% efficiency rating and should save her significantly when we are able to run the numbers after a year of use. We are switching her from a propane burning domestic hot water heater over to an electric tank water heater. Attic insulation to R60 and have air sealed the home using a blower door. So we were able to identify where her leaks were in the attic and the basement and seal those using a new company called Net Zero Insulation. Luckily, Wanda was interested in replacing her siding as well. So we were actually able to do continuous insulation around the exterior of the home, which will really help us get as close to net zero as possible. We've looked at her appliances, and she had an older fridge, stove, and freezer that were all roughly 20 years old, and we'll be replacing those with Energy Star appliances. We applied to Hydro One for a net metering solar project, and we're approved, so we have ordered a solar array to be installed on her roof, and that is roughly 7 kilowatts and should provide enough electricity to net out the building's energy usage once the project is complete. An important part of the project is capacity building in the community, and we decided with the Chippewas of the Thames team that a webinar series would be the most accessible way to share information at this point. So we've developed a Retrofit webinar series and have identified 10 community members in Chippewas of the Thames who are going to attend all of the sessions and a home tour of the Retrofit project once it's complete. And those are going to be our energy champions for the project, all of whom will be paid to participate and will receive an honorarium at the end of the project. We hope to empower folks to live within their value system and start making changes to their homes and their way of living that reflects how they value the environment around them. We hope to continue to provide incentives and work with different funding streams to bring opportunities to the people who need it and want it.
So this next film is called Food Fighters, and it's from Motioneer and also Loblaws, and it's part of a documentary series called Half Full, If you like this film and you're interested in it, you can see more. Search that up. So let's see what we have with this.
We can create a standardized measurement system for all industry to use, all government to use, for everyone to use, and we'll have a better understanding of where we can really attack this problem. We hired Value Chain Management International to help us better understand the amount of food that is lost and wasted in Canada.
This study was the first of its type in the world. A group of researchers had actually gone out into the field to gather primary data to use in the estimation of food loss and waste. We were surprised by the volume. We were also surprised by the causes.
You don't know how to get to somewhere unless you know where you're starting. And so this roadmap showed us where to start. Often what we had heard is consumer, consumer, consumer. It's all happening in your home. And because at Second Harvest, we collect food from across the supply chain, we knew that that was not the case. It's really happening much further up the supply chain, at farms and processors and manufacturers.
Bruce Taylor of the Enviro Stewards understands the value of food better than anyone on the planet. Some folks call him the David Suzuki of food waste, in that he's an incredible educator who's also doing the work on the ground. He's maybe more obsessed with dumpsters than the average person, but that's what we love about him.
Almost all the approaches are, how do we destroy this food more efficiently? With a compost or a digester, you lose all that value. Even if you divert 100% from landfill, you still lose almost all the economic, all the social, all the environmental. The only way to not do that is to prevent the loss in the first place. And so we've proven that it can actually be accomplished. We went into 50 factories in a row, and we found $240,000 per factory per year of food that didn't have to be wasted. For perspective, if you put a grocery bag beside the CN Tower, another one, you'd get to London before you ran out of grocery bags. Maple Leaf Foods is the first large food company in the world to be carbon neutral. One of the nice things about it is it then shows, like, there's so many companies now saying, oh, we're going to be carbon neutral by 2030 and 2040, and how are we actually going to do it? It's really nice to have somebody, hey, we're already there. So it's possible. So once you have some people showing that it's possible, then it makes it easier for the rest. In Maple Leaf's case, they actually had us go into all their facilities across Canada and find practical, affordable ways to reduce the loss in the first place. I guess what we find is a lot of people think that their dumpster is their cheapest bill in their factory. You know, they haul it away pretty cheap. How much did it cost you to buy what's in that dumpster? What was it worth just before you lost it? A better way to look at it is, this is food. How do we prevent it from being lost in the first place?
There is a movement happening, and there is a global movement about food waste. Nobody spoke about food waste 5 years ago. Like, because of this, then we're having this kind of emerging new consumers are looking for purpose-driven companies.
Our systems in the past are not going to work for the future. With every problem, there is always a solution.
Thank you. Just checking the live stream, we also have someone watching from Argentina. So hello in Argentina. I think I know who that is. And now we are really excited to premiere our film, Ngongakinda, which means resilience. And as I mentioned, the footage you'll see in the film was taken just last month in Uganda. Following the film, we'll have the panel come up and take the stage for a question and answer session. Again, there's a microphone down here for the Apollo audience, and on the live stream, you're welcome to submit questions in the chat. So let's roll the film.
The Nile River flows from Lake Victoria to the Mediterranean Sea. In Pakwach in northern Uganda, 90% of the residents are drinking untreated river water. Half of the patients in the hospitals are there due to water-related illnesses. Thousands of residents have obtained access to safe drinking water, and their assistance is coming from an unexpected source: refugees fleeing South Sudan's civil war.
My name is Logoya Matthew. I am from South Sudan. I was born in a village called Bori in Kajukeji County. In 2017, when I was going to Kampala in a bus, and then I reached to the bridge here, I saw a woman, an old woman, fetching water under the bridge. The worst thing is it was raining, and then the whole river was flooded with mud. And that old woman was fetching the water under the bridge, taking home for the family to consume. That affected me emotionally, and I feel, oh, my community, this community will be dying because of unsafe water.
I'm called Openja Oriema from Nyakumba East Village, Rogem Sub-County. We had drinking water problems, which we have been drinking direct from the river. That in turn brought problems in my home. 3 of my children's intestines were tangled. We took them to Arua Hospital. They conducted various tests and found out that it was the water that we have been drinking which caused that.
The available solution for finding clean water would be to boil it. But fetching firewood costs time and money, and boiling water also contributes to climate change, deforestation, and causes other respiratory issues. In the neighboring country of South Sudan, biosand water purifiers were constructed and sold to residents to help prevent waterborne diseases. However, in 2017, manufacturing plants closed down due to the civil war in South Sudan, resulting in the team living in refugee camps in northern Uganda.
When the war broke in South Sudan, I got confused and traumatized because I thought the war has come in to distract the start of the journey that's going to help many people with safe water. So the good thing is I shared with Bruce, and the encouraging point that he said, let's research for ways to get up in Uganda if possible. So I was able to meet the local government in Koboko, Uganda, telling them we have a pending projects that we are supposed to do in South Sudan, but we are already displaced, and our beneficiaries are also displaced. They are still the same people in the camp, and they are also within the local community. Can we start up and then do the same projects in Uganda? By name, I'm called Nelson Mandela. I'm a technician, and I also do monitoring in the community to see that the biosand field has worked well in the community. It's really hard for people here to live on this kind of water because up there we don't know what happens, and also some people down here, they are drinking. When you also proceed down there, they are also the same people who are also drinking the same water.
When we were in Arua hospital, we took 9 months and I lost a lot of money in treatment. And out of the 3 people that we have been in the hospital with, 2 died of the waterborne diseases. 1, as you can see, has been operated. Since we started drinking the filtered water, we don't feel any bad thing again. Here we only have 1 source of water, that is river, no borehole, no tap, but there is a lot of changes in our homes in regard to drinking water. We no longer buy bottled water because we have biosand filter. Without BSF, my children will not study because most of the money was going in treatment.
In October 2022, a local stakeholder consultation was held in order to generate gold standard carbon offsets. By avoiding boiling water, homeowners can purchase water purifiers at a substantially lower price. The offsets will also finance restarting the South Sudanese safe water projects to provide safe water to the returning refugees.
Ngongakinda means a lot, like press on, keep on going, resilience. Like for me, I was trained in South Sudan, and after being trained in South Sudan, I was able to train some people in Juba, in Yei, and then when we were displaced by the war, I am able to train people in Uganda. I started alone, but now have created an opportunity for 39 families. They are getting their food from the venture that has been started. We will be able to reach to many communities, and many households will be able to have the biosand filters, and many community members will live a healthy life.
All right, so as our panel makes their way up to the stage, remember if you want to ask a question in the live audience, come down to this mic. And people online, feel free to submit your questions in the chat. If you put a Q in front of it, we'll know that's a question and we'll see it more easily. Come on up and have a seat. So just so you know, the booth will still be open as you leave the theater. If you wanted to buy any merchandise or make a donation, the team will be there. If you're interested in any of the canvases that are out there, you're welcome to take one home for a suggested donation of $100, which is just the starting cost of the printing. For now, I'm going to turn over to Alice Penny, who's going to moderate the panel session.
Hi, everyone. Thank you and good evening. I think Bruce wanted to say a few words before we started.
Yeah, I'll just say just a quick update on the projects for people who've been involved for years. Many of you might have been to the orphanage in Kajukeji, South Sudan, and so we were able to visit them on this trip, and they're settled in Adjumani, Uganda now because of the war, and it was really nice. They have nice dormitories, so that's really positive. The current needs are more, they have a school walls, but they're kind of dissolving because they're just mud, and there's about 15 kids that still don't have sponsors for fees, school fees and stuff, so you'll see that in the lobby. We were able to visit Zamba, who has a shea butter business there. Some of you might know Zamba. And Daniel from Varsters is developing a website to help them sell their product because they pay a premium to about 600 women who collect the nuts. They can make 50% more than they would through middlemen by doing it that way. And then the safe water projects, as you saw, we're getting them set up so they can generate gold standard carbon offsets. And then that will be used to generate finances to be able to scale up the projects. And so just want to hand it back to you.
Thank you. Gang's all here. Not in Uganda, but here in Canada. I don't know where to stand, where I'm not like in front of everyone. So I think in the interest of time, sorry? Oh, this does not quite move. I have to go on the site. Sorry, we didn't plan this very well. Yeah, I think in the interest of time, I may not ask everyone the same question, but just kind of hop around. Why don't we start with just a quick introduction, and if you have like this really shortest version of why you went on the trip, that'd be awesome.
All right, so my name is Andreas. One of the new team members. I just started about exactly half a year ago today, as part of the Enviro Stewards team, and I was privileged to be able to go on that trip too. And personally, for me, it's the impact, like having an impact, helping people directly. And I think with the SDGs that was mentioned, that with this project and other social ventures, we have an ability to have multiple positive impacts. And so for me, it was a journey of learning. I'm gonna have to keep it short. You started with me, right? Yeah. So it's just like making these relationships and see how.
Hi everyone, my name is Mats. I started Enviro Stewards 2 years ago, but actually being there in person and talking to the people doing the actual work, I feel like now we have a much better sense of how we can contribute positively.
So if you do have a question, if you come up, then I know you're there. Otherwise, I'll go with the questions that I have. Go ahead, Brock.
My name is Brock, and I actually work for the Center for Affordable Water and Sanitation Technology based in Calgary.
Yeah!
And Bruce and the guys here and Alice were kind enough to allow myself and a colleague to join them on this trip. And in terms of learnings, I would say there are two big things. One is the capacity of the people that we met. They are willing to do so much to improve their lot in life and their communities. They just need a little bit of help. They need a little bit of support. And that classic, it's a cliche, but it's true. It's a hand up. That's what these folks need. And then they're more than capable to run with it. And then the second thing, the big learning for me is that the traditional model, and I think Bruce, you spoke about it, but the traditional model of charity doesn't necessarily work. And what I love about the work that we're doing with these biosand filters is it's allowing people to build up small businesses, right? And it's the idea that they can get the continual revenue stream from carbon credits, so they can build up these businesses and then sell them at a subsidized rate to these families that are in need. And I think that's the future of helping the developing world prosper. It's a much better model than straight up charity. So you might have to come
over here. Just to keep it short, basically, the reason why, because I could say a lot of reasons why I went on this trip, but I believe God was leading me on this trip, and I prayed about it, and it was awesome. It was totally evident. It's a great team and really awesome initiative. And I've been with Enviro Stewards 5 years, and this has been very interesting since the beginning. So the opportunity to go in person, right, and experience that was a huge draw. Yeah.
So my next question is actually going to be for Mats. I'm just going to ask, like, you did a lot of the footage. So and we only showed less than 10 minutes of it. What do you wish was there from the stuff that you took? What is missing? What's missing for you?
You mean in the video, what we showed?
Yeah, like on the rest of the 2 hours, what would you like to highlight?
Oh man. Yeah, there was a lot that we saw while we were there. There's a lot of people that we spoke with just in one-on-one conversations. When the camera's on, like it's a kind of a more formal interview, but when you're in the back seat of a car, just having conversations and learning what the project is like, that's difficult to capture on film in the moment. Yeah, I encourage everyone to maybe just find a chance to chat after the event, because there's so much more that we can share. Just
an extended version. I wish you'd included some of the wildlife that we saw.
Yeah.
I know there's only so much space in a film, but it was awesome.
Thank you. And Andreas, what was the most impactful thing for you? I know your trip was a little bit shorter, but what did you find the most impactful?
Yeah, going off me, what Mats just said is what's not in there is all the people we met beside. I have a lot of smiles in my memory too, and people from various backgrounds. And I think what was mentioned before too, this is about empowering. And most impactful for me, I think it's hopefully still like, which will the future will hopefully I think bring for me. It's not only there actually, it's the learning, and it's also conversations we have as a team. And so for me, I have a lot of questions still myself, is, you know, going on this trip, I felt privileged to be in a position. With the privilege comes the responsibility. So we have certain knowledge, we have certain means. You know, in this balance, maybe going on a global too, is like there's an imbalance. You know, how can we maybe have a certain impact that, you know, helps others to help themselves? And so it's a learning journey for me. It's also knowing, like I had with my trip too, there's emissions associated with it, there's time associated with it, there's money involved with it that could be spent differently. So for me, it's still a challenge now to see, you know, how I can build on that, to have a lasting impact. But I think it's the start, it's the relationship. And it's really about these people that we have met that I've learned a lot from. And I think from building from there, I think there's lots to come.
All right, thank you. We do have a question. Go ahead.
Just to get the party started.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? It's okay.
Can you guys hear her? No. Okay, you can use this one if you don't mind. It's up to you.
Sure, I don't know. Can you hear me now? Okay.
This one's fine.
Sure. In KW, we have a very big South Sudanese community. How are you going to take your experience from traveling and working within Uganda with South Sudanese people who fled war and back home? You know, you've had this experience, and how are you going to integrate that into your life in Kitchener?
Wow, that's a great question. Is anyone jumping up to answer that one?
I have one comment. Maybe they can come to us and we can just talk about that together of next steps. I don't know the answer, but.
Does anyone else have an answer? No, everyone is very thoughtful. Well, I guess I will answer. I was on the trip too, but I think for me it's always been about the connections between what we see when we're in the global south and here, and I think the ability to communicate with people who are here who don't necessarily have the same background that we do. And I do a lot of community work, as much as I'm from Zimbabwe. I had never been to Uganda, and so that gave me a bit more for context. So when I am in the community talking to some of the people in South Sudanese or Uganda, you do have a bit more for a context and can relate better. So I don't know how that translates going forward. I think like Andreas, it's a journey that you're still figuring out, well, what do I do with all this information that I went through this whole experience? So the revelation may come, hopefully will come. Mm-hmm. So any other questions? Yes.
Yes, I wonder if Bruce could share the original starting point of this whole project. How many years ago was it? And I remember you said a story about somebody donating bottles and shipping them there. This is going back, what, 15 years ago, more? 16 years ago?
Just repeat the question too for that. Yeah, thanks, Paul. It's a question from Paul at Veriform. The question is about the origin of the project. It would have started in January 2004 was the first time I went to South Sudan. It was still part of Sudan at that time, and there was still a war between the north and the south. And so I went with a local group, and we were going to help build an orphanage, the same orphanage that I mentioned before, the same orphanage in South Sudan, because the LRA was in Uganda and they were stealing kids from the other orphanages, literally to be slaves and soldiers and whatnot. And it was safer for Susan to build an orphanage in a war zone in South Sudan to keep the LRA away, which is kind of crazy. But anyway, so we went to build the orphanage, and before I went, I learned they're walking 3 miles to the nearest well. which was at the hospital in town. Later, we tested the water, and it's actually contaminated water coming out of the hospital well anyway, but carrying all the water for an orphanage on your head, so I brought a water filter with me and set it up at the orphanage so they could treat the creek water. So that was the first one in that country, and then a couple years later, we're making the orphanage bigger, and a group said, can you teach us how to build those? So that's what I was waiting for them to ask. And so then we came back in 2007, and Tal, who was on this trip, we brought him in 2007, and we gave a training to 17 individuals, one of which was Matthew, who's featured in this. And so Matthew and Emmanuel and Godfrey were the first from that class to start the business there in Kajukeji, and it's since grown from there. We had 4 manufacturing plants going in South Sudan before the war. They're all closed right now. We have 3 managers who are refugees in Uganda, ready to start those projects again once the war's over. And so we're trying to keep them alive and trained, build up their capacity so that they have as much capacity as possible when they go back. And we're hoping that this carbon can help fund the capital, and the returning refugees won't have money to buy. They won't have money to get sick either, but they won't have money to buy a filter. So if we can use the carbon filters so they don't have to boil water and they can be safe when we get back, is kind of the next evolution whenever it's safe to go back to South Sudan.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm the money person at Retrofit. So my question is involving what is the cost for these people to put in these biosand systems, and how many do you estimate you've actually made throughout the country that will...
That's a great question. Yeah.
So the way we do it is, the question was about the money, about how much it costs for a water filter. And so interestingly, even though you're the money person, you may not realize you bought 10 of them. Probably, that's a long time ago though, right, Paul? I don't know when that was. A decade or more, maybe 15 years ago, which provided more safe water in South Sudan than Veriform was using in Cambridge. And so anyway, the way we do it is if you donate $100 out in the lobby or through the website, then 50 American or 70 Canadian is used for a price discount. So instead of a filter costing $100, it's now $50. So you cut the price in half for these customers, and the customers make an average of under $2 a day. So that makes a big difference in, they're spending about $40 a year on typhoid needles and medicine right now. So you leave that money in that family, but basically of the $100 donation, we use $70 Canadian for that discount, and then we use the other for training and starting new projects. And our accountant certifies that every year, 100% of whatever we get, we put in the projects.
Last question. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I just had a question regarding how access to safe water extends beyond drinking water, especially during COVID. Like everybody was encouraged heavily to wash their hands, to practice safe sanitation. How did that, and were you able to support that side of things while supporting safe access to safe drinking water?
Yeah, so the question's about COVID, and interestingly, there was a real opportunity to, the project in Packwatch started during COVID without us going at all. So no trainers went from North America. Their local team did the market assessment, did the business plan, trained everybody to build the filters, trained the sales team and whatnot, and it went. But as far as hand washing, like hand washing doesn't make any difference if you're washing your hands with contaminated water anyway. So you need the clean water to do that, and so the biofilters were instrumental for that, but they did kind of hand washing stations and these kinds of things also. But it was difficult because there was very strict lockdowns where they weren't allowed to get out into the communities and whatnot. But they made it through that challenge also. We just didn't have enough time in the film to include that one.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that too. Like Feed Africa was really a part of the healthcare system that advocated in the community. I think what doesn't come out in the film probably is the biggest cost in all of this is educating the community, but nobody wants to pay for education on clean water, and that's a lot of what Brock's organization does is sanitation and that kind of thing. So that's really where the real work is in that empowerment and educating the community, because again, like Matthew spoke about, people are taking water from a muddy puddle, right? So just that awareness and that education building, which Feed Africa, who we work with, is Safe Water Social Ventures, they were setting up hand washing stations. They were really a part of that. And a lot of the trainings from COST, which is Brock's organization, they have all that training that they're able to pass on to projects like the Safe Water Project. So, so in the interest of time.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
Just one of the benefits, if we do get carbon credit certified, is that there's a requirement to go back to the communities every year to make sure that they're still working. Because if people are continuing to filter their water, then those carbon credits are still actively providing that benefit. So one of the benefits when you can also go back and have those conversations is to talk about the rest of the wash process to make sure that they're following hygiene processes and making sure the latrines are built further away from the water source and things like that.
I wish we had more time, but absolutely, I think, when we're done here, feel free to ask either one of us a question, or mostly Brock, I don't know, or Andreas, because he's been quiet for a while, but no, that's okay. Thank you very much for coming. I will leave it to Lloyd for final thoughts.
Okay, well, thank you again, everybody, for coming out tonight to share this evening with us, and thanks to everybody on the live stream, especially our international friends, so it's much later for them. So many people to thank for putting this evening together. Thank you to the Crazy Canuck for the wonderful food. Thank you to the team at the Apollo Theatre for bearing with us. It was a fairly complex program we had for them, and they did an amazing job, so thank you. And yeah. And I want to give a huge shout out to Andrew Tidby of Tidby Productions, who edited our video. The day after he got the job, he came down with severe shingles and had to be hospitalized. So he's on his hospital bed with our laptop trying to edit our film, and he doesn't even remember those 2 days, he says. So he was on the call with Bruce and Andreas and Mats and I today, just trying to nail down the last edits in this video. The Apollo was great to get that video ready and streamed, so thanks so much to everybody who put that together. Thank you very much to the EnviroStewards team and everybody who pitched in to make tonight possible. And again, thank you to the audience and for the supporters of Safe Water Social Ventures. Again, the table will be open as you're going out if you want to buy more merchandise or make a donation. And the panel will also be available if you have further questions. So thank you again so much and have a wonderful night.
Grab some chips on your way out.
Let's grab some chips on your way out too, please.